Meus amigos, como vocês bem sabem, a EVO 2025 começa na próxima sexta-feira e o Mortal Kombat 1 é um dos jogos que estarão presentes na line-up principal do evento. Além disso, o Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, conforme já avisado aí pelo pessoal da Digital Eclipse, estará presente lá no evento também com uma demo para o pessoal poder experimentar, e nós teremos um painel sobre essa coletânea na próxima sexta-feira, de acordo com o calendário da EVO aqui, onde eles devem trazer novidades e quem sabe, né, até revelar mais jogos que estarão disponíveis nessa coletânea. E aproveitando essa oportunidade, o canal Evo FGC trouxe pra gente aqui um videozinho onde eles trouxeram, digamos, o legado de Mortal Kombat com o Ed Boon falando a respeito, o Tyler Lansdowne também, que é o gerente de comunidade atualmente da NetherRealm, passando pelos 30 anos da franquia, desde o primeiro Mortal Kombat até o Mortal Kombat 1, e eles conversam sobre evolução de design, como algumas coisas foram pensadas e tal, como eles pensaram também no próprio Mortal Kombat 1, que realmente foi uma decepção em muitos aspectos. Então, bora conferir esse videozinho juntos agora. Saudações dele, seu cão nobre, simbora para mais um conteúdo aqui no canal. Se você curte os nossos vídeos, já deixa aí seu likezão, se inscreve e ativa o sininho das notificações para não perder absolutamente nada dos conteúdos que fazemos por aqui, sejam eles vídeos, lives ou shorts, e vejam a análise que nós publicamos aqui recentemente de Ninja Gaiden Raidbound, que foi lançado aí nesse dia 31 de julho. Tá aqui embaixo no comentário fixado, acessa lá e dê essa forcinha pra gente se vocês puderem, beleza, meus amigos? Então, vamos que vamos, sem mais delongas, legendas ativadas aqui, bora ver o legado de Mortal Kombat.
While we were making the games, we had no idea that it was, really kind of reaching past games into pop culture and whatnot. The design inspiration for the cast, as well as just the game in general, was just our influence from watching movies, comic books, TV shows, anything with action in it. So we were certainly
Nós conhecemos bem essas histórias de como os personagens foram criados, né?
Growing up. And so a lot of our characters are actually really influenced by those characters. Liu Kang is clearly influenced by Bruce Lee and some of the characters that he's played. Johnny Cage is Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Isso.
Sonya Blade is Sarah Connor. And so it's really just a collection of all the influences that we had put into a group of 4 guys in their 20s, each with a different expertise, all contributing to this one game, and you could just see the influence. Enter the Dragon, Big Trouble in Little China. You could see how Mortal Kombat could be formed.
Caramba, mano, só os filmes clássicos da hora.
This was our first fighting game that we had done. We had done other games. John Tobias had, like his previous games were, he drew all the graphics. So this was his kind of first digitized game. So it was a lot of work with lighting and whatnot and trying to get as realistic of a look as possible. And John would always describe it as like a gritty look. He really didn't want it to be pristine graphics. He wanted it to look almost like you could see the errors and bleeding in the characters. It made them look that much more realistic, like a photograph as opposed to sprites or anime or something like that. But there was quite a bit of trial and error.
John Tobias, mano, uma das grandes mentes por trás de tudo, né?
It, right? Like, the Scorpion Spear move was literally just an idea that popped up as we were talking. I had asked for like this harpoon thing, and John said, "Oh, let's make the tail, kind of like a snake." And literally, we're just making it up on the spot. And it ended up being, one of the most, if not the most, kind of recognizable move in Mortal Kombat.
Dos mais icônicos, rapaz, que isso?
Paper. We didn't give it was just, us standing around while we were filming, and that idea just kind of popped up.
Doideira. Ah, Midway.
Well, Midway Games had kind of pioneered in the arcade this process that we call digitizing graphics, basically taking real live objects or real live people and turning them into sprites and putting them into the game. So we had a number of games, Narc, Terminator 2 arcade game, a couple of games that I had worked on, and some of them were hand-drawn, Smash TV, but the main technology that Midway was really leaning into was digitized graphics. So that had already been established, and we knew before we had thought of Mortal Kombat that the next game was going to be a digitized graphics. So then the process was really finding a room with a back wall that we could color a certain color and filming real people doing punches and kicks and flips and things that we certainly couldn't do in costume, and creating these you know, in some ways they're kind of like superheroes, right? They have the costumes, they have abilities that they can do. That was always part of the plan, but we were just kind of utilizing the technology that we had available to us in a category of games that Midway had never made before. We really thought that, you know, fighting games was a great new category to explore.
Nice.
I do think it influenced other game studios. It also influenced
Caramba,
us.
mano.
Midway released a wrestling game that was digitized graphics as well, and they brought in the actual
Eu joguei muito esse jogo ali, viu,
so
cara?
they were really leaning into it with, like, you know, recognizable celebrities. You know, the guys that we used weren't, you know, celebrities at the time, but, you know, the guy who played Doink the Clown, I remember the Undertaker, they were all coming in and doing that. I don't remember a lot of arcade games coming out with that technology because I guess it was, you know, you had to have a studio, you had to have like an expertise on it. MK2 came along and everything we learned applied to that, and that looked much better than the first games. We had a sweet spot there where we were kind of the only kids in town with a digitized arcade game. The core elements that need to be in a Mortal Kombat game are probably some amount of the supernatural, some amount of grounded universe as well. Usually the mixture of the two is a big part of the appeal of Mortal Kombat, is putting regular people in a supernatural situation. I think that's a lot of what players experience too, as well as we want to see our characters experience. As far as gameplay, my feeling is when you're 33 years old, when you're on your 12th or 13th game, there's a certain amount of new features that we need to introduce to keep the game interesting. Oh, what's interesting about this game? Oh, they added this, as opposed to just putting a prettier coat of paint on
algumas coisas dão certo, outras não, né?
For, you know, 30 plus years.
Essa experimentação faz parte.
Liu Kang, Raiden, Katana. There's a number of these kind of staple characters that it's like having a Justice League without Batman in it.
For me, I mean, it's obviously the gore and the crazy finishers. Lately, in the last ones we've made, we've always brought something back, be it animalities from the most recent, things like that too, or mercies from back in the day when we brought those back. That can also be the hard part too, because with 30 years, there's so many things we just can't fit into one game, obviously. But definitely, like, finishers, always huge. And you gotta have Scorpion and Sub-Zero.
You mistake me for Shao Kahn.
The story was really just a couple of paragraphs. There was a bio, and then you would see the character doing like a kata or something. And then there was an ending. What I think a lot of people don't realize is a lot of people filled in the rest of the story with their imagination. We made them a little bit more elaborate in Mortal Kombat 2, but we didn't get into like telling a really deep story until, 4 or 5 games down the line, where we had endings that were more animated and whatnot. But there was certainly like a mystery element to the lore, because there was so little information that just caused so much more speculation. We didn't choose to do that. As far as the characters not being in a certain game, for production reasons, we couldn't include all the characters, so we didn't have Sonya and Kano in Mortal Kombat 2. And so, John wrote the story to say, oh, this happened to them and that happened. We tied Sonya up, and the story basically just was like, this is why you're not seeing this character. And everybody was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Mortal Kombat vs. DC was the first game where we actually had the cinematic story that would play, and then we were putting fights in between the story. But with Mortal Kombat 9, it was really exciting because, we hired real actors. We see a script and we see them reading the script, and it was very much like making a movie. Mortal Kombat 11
Aí começou lá no Mortal Kombat vs DC, né?
Kind of
essa parada.
In terms of like advancing the story. So when we started, it was, Shang Tsung, and then you find out that he has a boss, Shao Kahn, and we kept layering bosses with each game, right? And each game we wanted it to be bigger stakes, a more threatening boss, a bigger boss. And we had done like a time jump forward in Mortal Kombat X. All the characters were 25 years older, they had kids and whatnot. When we reached Chronicon, we had gotten so grand and so big that we were like, we just can't think of yet an even more who's looking down all over all of that, So Liu Kang had won, right? He had become kind of like the new fire god and whatnot. And we thought, you know what? Let's try to scale down. But at the same time, we also wanted to kind of plant the seed, like we did in MK11, that there are many Mortal Kombats. And some of them Shang Tsung won, and some of them Liu Kang won, and
a questão das linhas do tempo, né? Que eles apresentaram pra gente ali e tal.
So the main kind of reason we reset was because it had gotten so big that we thought, okay, the only direction to go now is to shrink it down again.
Cara, a ideia até que foi boa. Essa questão de reiniciar e tal, por conta do nível que o negócio tava chegando. O problema foi como foi feito isso, né, velho? Porque essa questão mesmo de titãs no Mortal Kombat 1 ali e tal, igual a gente fala, né? A história do Mortal Kombat 1, ela tem muitos problemas, mas ela tem algumas coisas que foram boas ali, né, também. E a parte do Mortal Kombat 1, a história básica, o Caos Reina foi um horror, um fracasso ali, na minha opinião. Mas essa questão de ser titã, aí vem titã daqui, titã acolá e tudo mais, cara, isso não colou. E isso é um dos pontos que a gente até critica bastante hoje em dia, né? Que eles têm que acabar com esse negócio de titã, mano. Eu acho que eles precisam realmente, de repente, pensar em reiniciar novamente aí, repensar a rota de como eles estão fazendo essa história e tudo mais, porque eu acho que esse negócio de titã realmente já deu. Eu acho que muitos de vocês concordam aí, né? Vamos lá.
All right, and welcome to the latest edition of the Combat Cast. So when it came to coming up with the Combat Cast, we wanted a way to show our fans kind of in real time what was happening and like show the characters as we were making them and be able to walk through the entire thing. I've had so many
o Combat Cast realmente é legal, cara.
Every Thursday, that's what we want.
Eu lembro da época do 11 lá, que a gente sempre ficava empolgado por um novo programa desse, pra eles apresentarem os novos personagens, golpes e tudo mais. E novidades que viriam no jogo, né, que ainda seria lançado.
We love doing the Combat Cast. It's probably my favorite thing I do. And I always look forward to the day that we drop that announcement that the Combat Cast is coming back, because that first one, the chat goes nuts. Like, it is crazy. And that feels good because people do remember what we've done because we've created this appointment television for them.
Mortal Kombat games, they probably go a little bit further in terms of the outrageous, right? It's not just fighting. We're dropping bombs on the ground. We're making clones of characters that they're freezing and doing, we're doing really wild stuff. It's kind of hard to predict every single combination, every single permutation of circumstances of characters and now cameos and all that. So we don't want to take away from that, just kind of make it generic and then it's easier to balance. But we're always in this kind of constant debate of let the player do what they want, but on the other side is still make it a game, still make it a competition, still make it some amount of skill that you're playing in the game, as well as make it accessible for other players. So to me, one of the big things that comes out is letting it stay Mortal Kombat with all the craziness, avoid infinites, avoid things that are just not fun to watch or not fun to play against, and maintain the Mortal Kombat while keeping some level of legitimate competition in there. We're asking the question, well, is it still fun? If we remove this part of the move, is it still fun in the game? Or does this move just simply break everything and we have to get rid of it? So it's a constant debate with, QA is involved, design is involved, art is involved, effects are involved. A lot of debates and discussion going on.
The thing about our design team is they are watching everything. You walk into one of their offices, when they're working on the game, one of the screens has 4 different streams on from different people around the world playing our game. So we're always paying attention to what's happening in the meta. We're always watching every tournament. We have meetings where we talk about all the things like, is this character too strong? What can we do to make this character stronger? Our design team is really locked in on like where the game is sitting at any given time. And they're always formulating ideas of how to make things better, bring some characters up, take some characters a little bit down, just to try to really get that balance line. It feels really awesome, I think, for the entire team to be involved in something that has their hand in so many different things, like you said, movies, music, all of this sort of things. We had to take care of it, and I think
Nossa, a HQ do Mortal Kombat X, mano, aquela HQ foi sensacional.
What we do with Mortal Kombat, because it affects so many people and so many different types of pop culture, it makes it important to us. I always explain to people whenever I tell someone where I work, I'm like, I work in video games. And they're like, what game? And I was like, Mortal Kombat. And you can tell that to pretty much anyone who asks that question, they'll know what you're talking about. Like when I got the job, my mom knew what Mortal Kombat was. So it's just like, it's just been in the zeitgeist and in the world for so many years. It's one of the biggest games of all time.
É.
I don't know of many fighting games or video games in general that a series has sold 100 million units, or the last several games were the highest selling. You know, usually a game comes out, it's biggest on the first or second one, and then there's like a tails off. We've gone through so many different generations of gaming. You know, arcade games, multiple console games from Sega Genesis and Nintendo to N64 and PlayStation, and then all the following
Special
PlayStations
Forces
and
passou ali.
Xbox.
Ai, Shaolin
You know,
Monks.
we've been around.
Olha a
and we've
MK9zinha aí
had
da massa,
major entries
11.
to
Olha a
all of
decepção no
those
final.
kind of generations. So the legacy of Mortal Kombat was a game that started with very humble beginnings, very limited expectation because of the situation, that exploded beyond any of our wildest dreams. We never would have thought in 30-something years we would still be doing Mortal Kombat games. It would have expanded into animated shows, comics, movies, lunchboxes. And I believe that it is approaching one of these things that we call like a forever franchise. I believe that it's approaching something that's
Realmente.
going to be
É uma franquia que
lasting
pode
far
durar pra
longer
sempre
than
mesmo, cara.
its original creators did.
Sim.
I think that that's kind of its legacy, its history, as I would describe it from
O
beginning
nome
to end.
Mortal Kombat é muito grande, cara.
It's
Por mais
amazing how many
que
people have
o 1 ele tenha decepcionado em muitos pontos ali, ele também tem coisas boas, cara. Eu gosto de algumas coisas do Mortal Kombat 1 e tal.
My dad gave me 6 quarters, you know, like very specific stories about when they first saw MK1 or MK2. Till the day you die, you will remember the first time you saw Mortal Kombat.
É, sem dúvida. Acabando já, pessoal, vamos lá.
As a person who works for NetherRealm, when it comes to who do I want to see do well at EVO, I don't want to be biased, but I really like the characters they play. Rewind, I love his Reiko, and just as a human, I've always been very close with Gur, and I love his Garrus play, and I mean, everybody loves watching Gur, so seeing those two do well would be awesome to me.
Ah, que massa.
We are seeing more of the young kids who are
Oh,
playing.
e TechZ aí, rapaz.
I don't know what's going to
Da
happen,
hora.
but there are so many players that if you told me they won, I wouldn't be surprised. And I'm also very excited to say we've been seeing a lot of different character variations. We've seen a lot of different cameos. Like, we're starting to see so many other characters used in the game, and that's really exciting to us too. You could have not had any points right now, and if you win EVO, you're going to the finals. And I think that's exciting for fans to see. We deeply love what we do. We love Mortal Kombat, and especially the fans. Like, we wouldn't have been in people's minds for this long if it wasn't for the fans who keep following us and playing the games. And that's the most important thing. They're playing the games, and we love that, and we thank every one of them. It's awesome.
Doideira.
The obvious thing we would want to say to our fans is thanks for continuing on this ride with us. It's been such a long journey, and we continue to be inspired by, you know, all the players who get so good at the game. The cosplay is just amazing. And just seeing that next generation of player come in, hopefully we'll be around to continue making games and letting them enjoy it.
Cara, é muito da hora isso, né? Eu gosto de ver esse tipo de vídeo assim, que é uma espécie de documentário mesmo que eles fazem, pra poder contar a história de como tudo começou, até o ponto que eles chegaram hoje, ver a evolução de tecnologia, de mecânicas e tudo mais, né? Até questão de gráfico mesmo, como a gente lembra ali no Mortal Kombat 1, como era, até o ponto que chegou hoje ali do Mortal Kombat 11, Mortal Kombat 1 e tal. E realmente passa esse filme na nossa cabeça, assim. Eu lembro do momento que eu tive o primeiro contato, né, com a série Mortal Kombat ali. E tenho até hoje, mano, eu lembro que foi no Natal, velho. Eu ganhei o Mortal Kombat 2, que foi o meu primeiro Mortal Kombat de presente. E foi uma alegria muito grande pra mim, lá na década de 90 e tal, assim. E ver a evolução da franquia até hoje é uma coisa muito gratificante pra mim, eu acredito que pra muitos de vocês também. Claro que nós tivemos aí uma decepção, que foi o Mortal Kombat 1, pela forma como ele terminou, a questão deles terem prometido anos de suporte, os problemas que o jogo teve aí também por ele ter sido lançado de forma apressada, como nós sabemos aí, né, poder cobrir lacuna ali do Esquadrão Suicida, que eu acho que ficou bem evidente pra todos nós aí. Mas tiveram coisas do Mortal Kombat 1 que eu gostei também, eu já falei isso aqui várias vezes com vocês, e Eu acho muito legal eles trazerem isso daqui, principalmente com a chegada aí do Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, que não só vai trazer os jogos clássicos pra gente, com o rollback netcode e tudo mais, e ainda tem jogos dessa coletânea pra eles apresentarem que não foram revelados ainda por conta daquele And More, né? Mas também os documentários, né, interativos que eles vão adicionar, que é uma coisa que a Digital Eclipse é especialista. Eles já fizeram isso com outras franquias aí também. E eu tô muito curioso para poder ver como é que vai ser construído esse negócio, principalmente essa parte dos documentários, quais outros jogos ali faltam, poder jogar os games clássicos ali e os que eles vão adicionar mais com o modo online robusto, né, ver como é que isso vai funcionar também. E eu tô bem curioso, mano, pra poder ver com relação ao próximo jogo deles. O que vai ser? Será que vai ser realmente o Injustice 3, como muitos estão levantando aí? Ou vai ser de novo o Mortal Kombat, como a gente imagina, por conta até mesmo de declarações aí do Zaslav? E agora eu quero muito saber de você, querido espectador que tá aí assistindo. O que vocês acharam desse vídeo aqui, o legado de Mortal Kombat? Se passou um filme na cabeça de vocês também? Se vocês estão animados aí por essa nova coletânea e curiosos pelo próximo jogo da NetherRealm? Eu vou adorar ver os comentários de todos, pessoal, e novamente não se esqueçam do likezão, se inscrever no canal e ativar o sininho para ter notificação dos próximos vídeos. Eu vou ficando por aqui, um beijão para todos vocês aí, até mais e fuemos, meus amigos!